You know where you can find us. At the table with the trailblazers, pathfinders. Why would you attack Midas? Backbiters don't want smoke with the fact finders.
Welcome back to Entrepreneur. Thanks for your patience. Episode 2 is finally here. I'm with a good friend of mine from childhood, Woodland Hills days. Woodland Hills Woodsmith alum,
buddy.
My man Jordan Hill. Don't call him Jordan because that's not his name. I don't know if you realize, but that's my new tagline for you. Don't call him Jordan because that's not him. That's Jordan Hill.
I think how you doing, man?
Doing well. Owner, founder, CEO, all that good stuff of Blue Highlighted Text and a couple of other things. I'll let you get into it. Introduce yourself. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, definitely. So I run an agency called Blue Highlighted Text now. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, under Blue Highlighted Text or Jordan with 3 A's, Hill. And I just want to share my journey, show people what I'm doing as I'm doing it. You're going to see me succeed live. You're going to see me fail live, everything in between. So, yeah.
That's it. Dope. Yeah. Getting into that, I noticed that a lot of your social media content, you just kind of, while you're working, you just kind of hit record. Talk about what that strategy is and why you use that kind of behind the scenes working content for promotion.
For sure. I remember distinctly, man, when I was first coming up, I would be like, okay, I hear people say that they do certain type of work, be it trading, be it data related, be it developing, whatever, especially if it was technical, right? And I'd be like, what is this? I know I'm smart enough to understand if I was in that world, but I kind of need to see it in order to grasp it. So I was like, you know what? Let me be that person. Maybe I can be the guy who sparks that interest in some kid who sees my content, sees me running around, well, not running around, but like navigating through the screen, switching tabs, switching windows, doing different things, and maybe that'll start a conversation with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things is I'm in the tech space, but not as deep into that specific niche as you are, the analytics part of things, the really nerdy behind the scenes stuff. Like I can read analytics, but watching some of your content, you're kind of moving stuff around real quick. And it's like, to me, even somebody who understands partially that world is like, it's intimidating to me. So it's interesting you said that, you put just enough out to start a conversation. And I think that's the key to marketing and to getting interest in what you do. I think that for the most part in the tech world, our selling point is you don't have time to do this and you don't have the knowledge, but I do. So hire me.
There you go.
That's cool.
There you go. That's exactly it, man.
Yeah. So moving back, let's start from the beginning. You've been, ever since I've known you as adults, you've had an entrepreneur spirit. I've kind of watched through social media and kind of afar and through my brother Jeff, who you're good friends with, kind of your journey of having different ventures and starting different things. So kind of talk about where that entrepreneurial spirit came from, do you think, and kind of what started you on your own path there?
Excuse me. Man, I don't know what started it. I really can't pinpoint a single thing that really started it, but I knew that I kind of wanted to do my own thing, and I knew that the only way I could have like full autonomy and freedom would be if I income on my own, so that I didn't need to lean on, a full-time gig. And there's nothing wrong with full-time gigs. I had several of them. I got fired several times from a lot of different places. And it just kind of, it always boiled down to me not being fully like feeling like I could be myself in those spaces, right? So I think for me, having a business was more of a way for me to express myself more than hey, I need to do this in order to get rich type of thing. Having resources is dope, but like I was actually chatting with somebody about this recently. Having that identity piece is everything. Like I'm just being who I am. And so it kind of naturally got me into, first, like everybody else probably, cutting yards, painting curbs. So like painting the numbers on the houses, curbs, little odd jobs, Frank's Tanks, shout out Frank's Tanks.
Oh, I remember Frank's Tanks.
Yeah. and he was a business owner. He was a small business owner, and he would let me run the shop on the weekends and stuff, or if he wanted to just dip out. And so that really gave me a lot of sense for responsibility, take care of things, making sure that the money's right and everything in between. So I don't know, it just kind of, it fell in my lap. Big shout out to my parents, shout out to my pops for even orchestrating that entire play. But yeah, man, it's just always been really natural to me to try to find a little hack, find a little way past the norm.
Yeah, it seems too that you take a little things from each chapter and use it to move forward. That's kind of what you and I talked about a little bit before. When I started Promotion Media Group, digital marketing agency, multimedia agency with videography, photography, all kinds of different plays on the same type of thing, marketing and media. I got into that because different jobs that I had held up to that taught me different skills, and they all just kind of came together. So I think having that entrepreneurial spirit is good because it's what you have to have innately to build on. But I think one of the biggest keys, something you touched on before, you learn something in each place, and then that will help you as long as you apply it moving forward. So that's cool. So your first venture that you started on your own, that you would call your first entrepreneurial venture, what was that? How'd you get into it, and what did it teach you moving forward?
Yeah, so that was 322 homes, and a 322 is like a standard home size, so that's what that meant. 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 2 car garage. And that started after I had the job at a small like investment type of real estate firm. You guys know it as wholesaling probably nowadays, but back in 2011 or something, 2012 maybe. Back then, it wasn't like really common knowledge. I started in wholesaling. I did that for 2 years, broke off on my own and had my own thing for 2 years, bought my first house that way, flipped my first house that way. And I wouldn't say that it was successful financially for me, because there was a penny pinching that was going on, but it gave me so much confidence, man. And I think people sleep on the projects that you try and then the confidence you get from trying it and succeeding. If you make $1, you succeeded technically. It might not be the, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million that you want, but you can't sleep on the idea that, hey, I had this idea from thin air, I tried it, and then it ended up working. For me, the idea wasn't from thin air, though. I got there after I had worked at the wholesale firm, and then I went out on my own and did the same thing that they were doing, except for I put my twist on it to where I could own a home, or I could do a owner finance type of transaction. So I learned some things with creative finance there. But I guess the point that I really want to make, though, is that was the first time that I had my own thing. I was the only person on staff. It was me. I was the boss. I chose how I spent my day, and that was the dopest thing to me.
Yeah, so taking something that you learned from another job and basically saying, why am I going to do this? If I know how to do it on my own, why am I going to do it for the man instead of myself, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah, dope. Moving into something, from something that you wouldn't call necessarily uber successful. What made you pivot, and how did you pivot, and what is it like personally? It can be demoralizing to do something that didn't succeed to the level that you thought you wanted. A lot of people, myself included, have thought about, maybe this isn't for me, maybe I should give up. What would you say kept you, you kept that spirit still kind of alive and allowed you to pivot to something different?
The need to pay bills. So I think
everybody's got that need.
I think people really sleep on the reality of being like, all right, look, I'm just going to go grab this job because I have the skills and I'm qualified. So let me go pay my bills. Let me go lick my wounds and recover a little bit. Right. We were talking off camera about the injury that I recently had. Right. Sit down the entire summer and recover. There's no way around it. Right. And sometimes financially you get into a spot what's homie from Tiger King? What did he say?
Joe Exotic?
I'll never financially recover
yeah.
from this.
I will never financially recover from this.
For real. I've been there so many times to where I was like, yo, I think I really did it this time. But one thing that I will say that I've been very, very intentional about is only using cash and not screwing up my credit with my entrepreneurial endeavors. I never charged stuff that I couldn't afford and just kind of went all in and said, screw it. You know, it's always been, if I crapped out, it was because, you know, I tried something financially with cash and then maybe it worked, maybe it doesn't. But you can always bounce back from a cash poor position, so to speak, through just getting some paychecks into your bank. Everybody's got to do it sometimes. So I think getting over the shame, it's a lie, man. That's all. It's for real, a lie and deception.
Yeah, and I think we've all been there. You know, like I told you last time we spoke, and at the beginning, you know, I started a business with nothing. I had support. You know, I had a support system, but you know, financially I didn't have any grants, didn't take out any business loans, didn't have any investors. You know, I started from the bottom and really just had to grind to get clients. And you know, granted, I went in with the wrong mindset, the wrong mental state. Wasn't really personally ready to do that, but ultimately ended up having to take a step back and getting back in the workforce, just like you mentioned, because you got to pay bills. And it was tough to navigate that. Dang, did I fail at this? And how do I pick myself back up? But honestly, in my mind, I knew that I didn't fail it. I knew I wasn't going to close the business. It wasn't going to be over with. You know, I was going to take a day job for as long as it needed to grow my business on the side to a point where I could transition seamlessly and finally to a point to do that. But I think the important note to take here for anyone who's in business for themselves or thinking about doing it is you may have that dead end where you gotta hit reverse and take another route sometimes, and that's okay to do that as long as you don't give up. And you'll want to give up probably once a month. It'll feel like that from here and there, but I think that's a good point you brought up. It's not over till you say it is.
Yeah, for sure, man. Just living to fight another day and understanding, reframing what success is. Everybody, I think there's a unnecessary amount of pressure on people with social media and access to celebrities and all these other people. And it's like, success means I have to have, you know, XYZ, expensive thing, expensive car, clothes, jewelry, all this other stuff. And it's like, yeah, those things are nice, but as a small business, especially if you're brand new and this is your first thing, or maybe it's only your fifth different try, imagine how many we'll get to how many tries it took me. But for someone who's new and starting out, a win is getting paid $100 when you didn't have any money coming in. A win is getting paid $1. It's proof of concept. I think the idea of proof of concept is slept on way too much in the entrepreneurial community by newbies, because just because you didn't have enough money to cover your, $3,000 a month lifestyle doesn't mean that you didn't succeed. It means that you didn't make enough money to cover your current lifestyle. But you might have made $1,000 that month. The job is to scale up that process now that you have proof of concept. So I think a lot of people screw up where it comes to the timing of the cash flows part. It's like, bro, you succeeded. Now you just got to figure out how to make it happen faster
and more, you know, compound it. Yeah, it's right. It's, you know, you're expecting too quick a return. You know, it is the timing. You know, if you're in a position now, let's say you jumped off the porch, you didn't have a plan B, you didn't have, you know, a day job, and you were on a side gig and you went full at it. That's cool. If that's what you're prepared to do, then great. But the world doesn't care about your timing, and you can't force yourself to make to cover that $3,000 lifestyle right away. You have to have proof of concept. You have to have a reputation. You have to have a portfolio of work to show. And until you have that, you haven't failed. You just gotta scale it, like you said. I mean, reputation is everything. If you have 5 people in your corner that can say, yeah, this dude did my marketing for me, or this guy did my flowers for my wedding, or this guy does great videos, people will start to listen. But you're not going to have that until you have that proof of concept. It's a good point.
No doubt. I
think you touched on something too when you touched about social media, because I was going to say earlier, it's been a new wave over the past few years to be an entrepreneur or a social media, what I call a social media activist of sorts. And there's all these inspirational dudes doing selfie videos or going on speaking engagements, and they always want to give you these really cool sounding adages about, jumping off the porch and doing it. Don't have a plan B. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. And nobody tells you that that doesn't work for everybody. Nobody tells you that every entrepreneur has a different path. Nobody tells you that it's not going to happen right away just because you say you're an entrepreneur. You're not always one. So what do you say to people that I would imagine that everybody who's been an entrepreneur for any specific period of time, whether small business or huge, would have advice to give as far as who to listen to and what not to listen to up and comers or to aspiring business people. And what is your advice to those people as it comes to all the noise that surrounds this area?
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. The most on my own experience, right? I don't know what all works for everybody. I know what worked for me was to get quiet and stop consuming. The problem that people have, and I was talking to my homie Jared today about it, is young people especially, they have this crossroads that they get to where they have to make a choice. Do I want to be a consumer or do I want to be a business owner? So much of being a business owner nowadays is tied to consumption. They show the Lambo, the watch, the car, the house, whatever. And then they say, all right, in order to do that, you have to have a business. You're already approaching the game incorrectly. You're looking at the scoreboard instead of focusing on the fundamentals of just getting the ball in the basket.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so whenever you do that, you really play yourself. All the motivational on Gary Vee, but the clones that came after him where everybody's trying to motivate people. It's all cap. It's all unnecessary. It's all to sell a course. Most of the time those guys are selling some course.
Yep.
Most of the time that course is not expensive. The reason it's $50 is because it's for beginners. The reason it's not $3,000, $10,000 is because it's not for business owners. I've taken the expensive courses, not to flex or anything, but the idea is the reason the course is expensive is because it's for somebody who has made money in their business already. So they have extra money to spend on getting to the next level. But whenever you see a whole bunch of guys trying to pitch you a course for beginners, it's trash, man. They're not going to give you anything secret that's not already on YouTube or somewhere else if you just learn how to search for it. But I guess the main thing the point I want to get across is focus on yourself, man. I wrote a book called HTKY. That stands for How to Kill Yourself, but it's about ego death. It's about removing getting out of your own way. You have to legit reinvent yourself in order to succeed. That means different things to different people, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, so check that out. HTKY, How to Kill Yourself. That's dope. I'm going to have to check that out too. Yeah,
Yes,
so
sir.
that's important too, because I think I call it the Planet Fitness approach, where you're talking about $50 courses for beginners. There's some of these guys, I don't want to call them fake, motivators, but that's kind of what rings to me.
Yeah, they don't have your best interest in mind.
They're like you said, they're trying to like you said, they're trying to sell a course, and the reason that the course is so cheap is, like you said, not only is it for beginners, but they know that almost anybody with an impulsive mind will pay for it, even if they're not going to end up using it in any capacity. If you're a persuadable person, an influenceable person who maybe has aspirations to be a business owner, and you scroll by this ad on Instagram for this $50 course, you'll probably buy it and never use it. Well, to them, they're just making money off of you. They don't really want you to succeed. And so I think that would be my biggest piece of advice too, is to just be careful who you listen to, and really your biggest learning points. You're learning, what am I looking for? Teachable moments. Your biggest teachable moments are going to happen by trial and error. You're going to learn them the hard way most often. Or, obviously having a plan. And I think that's, kind of a segue into my next question we talked about briefly is, before we turn the cameras on, is entrepreneurial spirits are innate. You have it or you don't have it, I believe. And, you can teach hard work. You can teach specifics of jobs, you can teach specifics of industries, but can you teach a hustler's heart or hustler's mind and good work ethic? I think you can to a degree, but I think you have to have a starting point within yourself, and all that's great. If you've got that, cool, you got 80% of it locked down. If you've got the lion's heart to get out and jump off the porch and go do something for yourself and make a business, great. But one of the mistakes I made was not having a plan up front. Yeah. And I think that's what's important. Talk about your own experience on not only when you started a certain venture, but when you're in a pivotal moment where you have to change directions or, completely change your interests or completely change the industry that you want to be in. How important is it to have a plan, and what is your experience with with having or not having a plan before jumping off?
Yeah. So this kind of ties into the previous question as well. This thing right here is with me, but I don't really use it. I'm not on my phone. I'm not on social media unless I'm trying to post something. I don't respond to comments. You probably have noticed that I'm not very active on social. I just post there in order to get traffic. I think the thing is you have to know what you want to do with the business. You have to be eyes wide open, paying attention to the landscape as it shifts. For me, I've gotten really far by knowing that I was only going to be focused on a couple of things. So with BHT, just that story and how BHT came about is, we'll get into that, but it was on accident. I was just blogging about what I was learning, and then I got tests that I ran. I got really interested in tracking, and then I got into the tools that allow you to track people online. But where was I going with that? The point is if you're not quiet, if you're not sitting, if you're not able to sit down and journal or sit down and write out your plans or write out your goals, if you're too busy just scrolling, being a consumer, consuming content, there's input and there's output. I focus on output. Output is sitting down and writing down goals. You don't have to be perfect with a business plan. You don't have to be perfect with, all right, I'm not starting nothing until I buy this domain and I get this LLC. I know people who have done that. I'm sure you do too. It's like a thing where people don't feel like they have a business until they have an LLC. It's so weird to me. Go make a sale. Go make $1. And then let's talk about getting all your legal stuff put together. That's how I feel. I've seen people lose momentum, worried about setting up, looking a certain way, getting a logo on Fiverr or whatever. It's like, bro, you doing everything except for the work. And you have to be able to check yourself constantly. My business, I've had to pivot recently, and I talked to you a little bit about that, but I had to cut back some of my staff and rethink do I want to be a freelancer, or do I want to go heavier on agency side, or is it a hybrid? So I'm still kind of figuring that out in real time. But you have to have a stomach for this stuff, bro. It's not easy conversations. Is if I can keep it 100% real with you, I had a hard time sleeping last night knowing that I was going to have to make some phone calls today. And that is what it is. And the reason I had to make those phone calls is because October's Sunday. And so I got payroll hitting.
Right.
So it's like, hey guys, just heads up, things are going to be switching up a bit here. So I say all that to say this, man. You can plan all you want to. What did Andre 3 say? You can plan a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather.
That's true.
That's business for you right there.
Right. That's true.
And it's always going to be, I treat this like I'm boxing or something, right? Yeah, you can have a game plan. You can have a general idea of what you want to happen.
Right.
That's great. It's time well spent. But when you're in the ring, you got to be paying attention, eyes wide open, see what's shifting, what's opening up, what's closing. And it's that constant, that's the part that gets draining and tiresome for a business owner, because your mental stamina has to be out of this world.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. The game plan, obviously, Andre never tells lies. But the game plan, it can be equated to really any type of sport. You come into a football game. We've seen game plans get blown up in the first quarter, first couple minutes. You come in with a plan. It's good. You should have a plan. But like you said, if the game gets off script, you still got to figure out how to win it, and you still got to play by the same rules. Like, the rules don't change. The plan might change, but you got to still figure out how to do it. So that's good.
Me and my homie came up with a saying when we was going through a rough patch. I was in West Texas in the oil fields. I was a VP of an oil field services company. Don't ask me how. It just ended up happening. It was weird. That's a story for a different time. But we came up with this idea called still win, and we would text that to each other. Still win, meaning no matter what's holding you back, or L's that you took, or things that didn't go your way, you have to have this mentality that you can still win, and that you will still win regardless.
Right.
Just imagine how dope you have to be in order to adjust a million different ways and still end up victorious.
Right. That goes back to the entrepreneurial spirit and like having a stomach for it. Like you said, resilience is one of the biggest things that you can have. Self-awareness and resilience, along with communication, I think are big, with yourself being able to accomplish what you set out to accomplish. When the wind changes, you got to be able to change with it.
No doubt.
So you mentioned blue highlighted text, how that came about. It was an accident. Talk about what it is. You touched on it at the beginning of this at this interview at the beginning of this episode. What blue highlighted text is. We don't have to get into the details, because I don't like to give away the farm on these deals, but how can you help a business? But first, how did you get into it? And how have things gone since you started? It's been a few years now. Is it 2 or 3 years maybe now since you started?
Yeah, it's been, I think, right at 4, actually. 4? So we, big shout out to my homie Greg Jeffries. He's from Starkville, Mississippi, small town. We're a lot alike. I feel like he's my brother from another, for real.
Okay.
But so Greg Jeffries met me at a meetup here in Austin. He has a course called SEO Affiliate Domination. Y'all should check it out if you get a chance. But essentially, it shows people how to use SEO in order to make money as an affiliate marketer. So you buy the software, you buy the course, and he tells you to buy the software. You buy the software. It allows you to take a WordPress site and put like 20,000 blog posts on that WordPress site based on a list of keywords that you provided. And so you can really dominate a certain niche. And the idea is to pick a niche and then pick a product to be an affiliate for related to that niche. For me, I was in meditation niche really heavy. And I found a dropship product out of Florida, is like a meditation seed that I wanted to work with. So I ended up creating a whole bunch of meditation they're making some sales. I think I made like $300 in the first 90 days. So for me, that was a huge win because I didn't spend any money on anything other than the course. Long story short, he allows you to get paid based on the course if you make money with the course. So then he'll give you back the cost of the course as long as you give a testimonial and he gives you money back. So I was like, cool, this is great. So it's just proof of concept. I was making these sales, couldn't tell where the money was coming from. I was getting confused. And I was like, bro, there's got to be a way for me to track where the person who bought this came from. Because all it is they click a link and they redirect to a sales page for whatever that product is. But all the way up to that point, I have control of that person in my website, so I can control what's tracked. I ended up getting into some Google Ads work, some SEO work, taking little jobs while I was trying to learn this new skill. Because remember, I came from finance. So I'm learning digital marketing. And then I had a eureka moment where I was like, yo, don't nobody understand conversion tracking. Nobody can figure it out. Nobody can figure it out for Google Ads. Nobody's figuring it out for SEO, for Facebook, for any ad platform. Everybody's complaining that they can't tell. They don't trust the attribution. So when you go into Facebook and they say, hey, you got so and so many leads from XYZ. And then you look into Google Analytics and it's a different number and people are just confused. I became obsessive and I just dove all the way in. I learned about Google Tag Manager, Google Analytics, and essentially now with blue highlighted text, I began consulting organically. So I had some buddies reach out to me and said, hey, you've got this blue highlight, different software I'm learning, different tools that are available, etc. And it was just a big diary of me writing about what I was learning, filled to the brim with affiliate links, just random stuff. I had a buddy reach out and say, hey, yeah, you know Google Analytics, can you help with this? So I started a project. That was my first client, and they ended up being projects for them. Word got out and picked up a couple more clients. So that was 2022 is when I really, really blew the door off on that. Mm-hmm. But all the way up to that point, it was just me blogging about what I had learned and not even reaching out to anybody for actual commercial interests, AKA getting clients. So
right. Very cool. So you help businesses figure out what their website traffic is doing on their website to help them figure out how to optimize that site for higher conversion rates, if in a nutshell.
100%. So imagine a situation to where someone's visiting your site to fill out a form or make a purchase. If they're making a purchase, you would want to know what item, what color, how much tax, how much shipping, information on their name, their email. You want to, so that you can send it over to your CRM. If you use a standard setup or you just don't have a good setup at all, you might be missing different pieces of that puzzle. And so I kind of help people fill in the gaps on the data that's available versus the data that they actually want to capture in order to make decisions.
Very cool. And that works with pretty much every type of industry, right? Everybody needs to know what that's, what that behavior is doing on their site.
I tell people that most websites have two functions. You're either going to capture their email so that you can send them a newsletter. You're going to have them fill out a form so that you can phone call them and sell them something or have them book an appointment on the phone, whatever. Or you're selling them something that needs to get shipped out to them on Shopify or something, right? So there's not a whole lot that people do online. So I got those things covered.
Yeah, cool. That's dope. Really interesting too that you were able to identify a need in a market space and say, I know how to do this and I can offer this to people who don't know how to do this. So what was it like to have that eureka moment, and was it a different feeling for you than your past ventures in that moment?
It was only different because I had made the. So the first job I ever had was at a very, very small agency. And I took the job because they had me doing SEO, Google Ads, and I was touching like 7 different businesses. So I got a lot of reps in that way. And then after that, if you know Alex Hormozy, he's one of the big business leaders right now. But I worked at one of his companies, Gym Launch, and I did Google Ads there and ran into the same issue. Conversion tracking, not really sure what's going on there and how it's set up or why it's set up the way it is, right? And so I knew that there was a need for it. And all the while, Jason, I had a job that was paying my bills while I was trying to figure out how I was going to finesse the actual conversion tracking piece of the pie.
Right.
And that didn't even come to fruition until, like I said, 2021, it started. And then 2022, I had enough returning customers to be like, all right, I can do this full time. Right. I was sitting at a job working as an SEO when I was working on these conversion tracking little small side projects. And then that company ended up letting me go, and I jumped directly into blue highlighted text full tilt. Yeah, man. I think people need to use their jobs, use your job to learn. Learn on the job, make money on the job, and plan your next step while you're at your job.
Yeah, it can always be a next step. No one says you have to stay at the same job till retirement. That's kind of the old way of thinking. Even if you want to stay employed, that's great. Not everybody's an entrepreneur, but I believe that you can make strides, even if you're switching companies, even if you're moving cities, if that's feasible for you. But the next step is, there's no timeline for it. If you're ready to take a next step within an industry or outside it, do that. But I fully agree. Learn what the next step is while you're doing the current one. Because I'm in the same position that you were in presently. I started my business in 19, did it for about a year, didn't really go anywhere, mainly because I wasn't in the right mind state, and was kind of just behaving, irresponsibly, especially financially at the time. But I wasn't really ready to start a business. So what I had to do is take a look in the mirror, become more self-aware, and take a step back, get back into the workforce, but work in an industry where my experience is relevant to what I want to do in my business. So, at my current job, I'm doing the same thing that you just talked about doing at yours. You're working a day job in a space that's interesting to you, but you're also working on improving your knowledge and your business savvy and putting together your plan on how you can transition seamlessly to that job, to that business full time. Jumping off the porch doesn't always mean leave everything behind right now and just go, like these internet motivators try to teach you. You just do it. You can just do it if you want, but you can also do it this way. You can do it gradually. You can learn. You can get better. You can learn how to staff. You can learn how to outsource. You can learn whatever that type of business structure is until you're ready to transition seamlessly. And that's jumping off the porch too. I mean, your entrepreneurial, what's the word? Your leap of faith, I guess, is always going to be there. But going into it with a plan and a plan of improvement before you transition can be just as valuable, if not more.
I'll add this real quick, Jason. I think people get over obsessed with how it looks and looking like they just had a flawless victory, like it was perfect. I'm not allowed to cuss on this, am I?
Yeah.
I really want to. It's dumb, man. It's just, it's silly to think that you're just going to stop your job and jump into something and it's going to work perfectly. There's so many things. There's so much shit that has to go right in business. I'm like living proof. Trust me. You can make decisions while you're successful that you look back at and you're like, oh, dang, I actually didn't take the right path there. At my CPA mentioned something to me because I had made some mistakes around hiring, and he was like, yo, what you need to do next time is let us know that you're thinking about hiring. We're going to make a separate account, and we're going to put money into that account as if you've already hired that person to see how it cash flows. And then you'll have not only proof that it's not going to hinder your business and how you operate and move your money around, but also we'll have a 2-month cushion for the person who comes on.
Right.
So if they don't work out in the first 2 months or maybe 1 month, you know, people put probationary periods in. I'll still not be fully, you know, out.
Right. Yeah.
And trust me, it's a different conversation when you're frustrated with an employee and you spent a lot of money on them.
Right.
Versus, hey, I got this budgeted for just in case it might not really work out. I ain't really tripping. I'm really more focused on getting that person on board and moving a certain way, adding value, right?
Right.
So it's all these lessons, man. I give you that one, but trust, I've had like 10 of those that hit me all this year. So
really?
It's been interesting to say the least, because your success opens up the door for a new level for you to try to go figure out, because it doesn't go from 0 to $1 million.
Right.
You have to go from 0 to 100 grand to 250 to 500. Then as you get up there, you start to realize, oh shit, I got to play this a little differently in order to win.
Right. So moving forward, you know, what's kind of on the table for Blue Hat of the Tech? What's on the table for you, and where do you see your journey taking you from here?
Yeah. So without giving away all my moves, actually, you know what? It doesn't matter, and I know it doesn't matter because I've been around guys who are playing way bigger games than I am right now, and I can tell the entire world every single thing that I want to accomplish, and that's also why I can show my content the way I do, where it's like, yeah, let me show you my actual work. Most people aren't going to go do it or figure it out, just because there's only so many hours in the day.
So they can know your moves, and they're not gonna be able to stop them anyway.
Yeah, it's not going to matter. So software is next for me.
Oh, fire.
Probably a Chrome extension. There's a tool that I currently use, and I like to poke around and look at all the nerdy details, find out the guy and who he is, go see him on LinkedIn, and he just goes out and says, hey, contact me if you want to create something like this. So I'll probably reach out to him, figure out how much that's going to cost, and make that happen. I think that data and analytics and understanding where your visitors are coming from and putting them into audiences so that you can retarget them and all those things are that game has just really started with machine learning and AI. And it's going to get more and more important to reach people based on where they are in the funnel, so to speak. And what data does is allows you to see deeper into a funnel. So you think of a funnel like top, middle, bottom. There's like 5 layers in the top. There's like 5 layers in the middle, and there's like 5 layers in the bottom. And I can identify those through using specific data.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What do you think is, we talked about this briefly, but if you had to say something to someone who's thinking about getting into, their own entrepreneurial journey, their own business, starting their own venture, what are a few, 2-3 different things that you would say to them starting out and that would help them sustain?
Yeah. So starting out wise, don't go into anything thinking that you have to eat off of it. Meaning, imagine a situation where you can start a business, have your bills paid while you're working your main job. Hustle is just really more so a discovery and a test ground. I've learned in Project Nuisance was a nonprofit, so there wasn't even a need for me to try to blow up financially through that. But what Project Nuisance did is it opened up my mindset around how I approach business and life to where it was like, okay, I can make these adjustments. I can also learn how to sell print on demand. So that kind of did that for me. But anyways, kind of bringing it back, the idea is to have somewhere where you can treat your new business like it's a experiment more than a, hey, this has to generate cash or else it's not a success. Because that's not true. Sometimes you just need like a sandbox to go play around and learn from. And then that thing that you learned, the succeeding later.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things that I want to make sure everybody knows, and that I really try to keep in mind for myself too, because I'm still a toddler entrepreneur, and I'm learning new things every day. I'm trying to proactively learn. So, one thing that I try to keep in mind for myself is, as a business owner, to not get to, when you get to a certain point where you're able to staff and outsource certain projects, is to focus on not spreading yourself too thin and not getting yourself too involved in too many of the daily tasks. If your business is to the point where you can delegate duties and hire staff, and especially hiring your weaknesses, then do that. Because working 16 hours a day just to get the work done, you really don't have a business. You have a job.
Sure.
So as the leader and as the the facilitator of all of the business duties, you don't have to do them all yourself. You need to focus on hiring your weaknesses and hiring to make sure that you can run the business while the business runs itself underneath. And I found that in a book I was reading. When you're from a digital agency standpoint, when you're going and selling the client and then coming back and doing all the SEO yourself and writing all the blogs yourself and optimizing the sites for mobile yourself and running the Google ads yourself, you're technically own the business. And that's what I've been doing for years for Promotion Media Group, is going and making the sales and then making everything happen. It feels like a job. It doesn't feel like I own a business. It feels like I'm working for myself, which is obviously the point, but I'm not reaping the benefits of being a business owner of a scalable agency. Like you said before, you can't scale if you're working all day on the work.
Yeah.
So,
to add to that, you can't sell your business. Imagine like some of the biggest brands in American history. You think of a situation where the owner started in their garage, they got it going. It's usually product based, not service based, but they get it going and then they sell it to somebody and they make this big multi-million-dollar payday, right? You don't do that by being the one person by yourself unless you have a highly leveraged situation like software, right? And that's why I'm going software route. But one thing I kept thinking while you were going through that, Jason, is in order to be a good manager of people and have a decent sized team so that you don't have to do it all, you have to have different skill sets. So you have to develop the skill of being able to write out and communicate processes and use tools like ClickUp or Asana, link in the description. I feel like a link in the description. But you use these tools in order to make sure that your team knows what to do. I don't like writing down really highly detailed things. Like I'm not a writer in that sense. But I'll make a Zoom recording or a screen share and shoot them over that and be like, hey, just follow this. Right. So you have to figure out what you're good at and how you like to rock, and then put people in position to win, man. To win. You can take the best player, put them in the wrong offense, and they're screwed up and not producing.
Right.
I put it. So.
Yeah. Very sound advice, man. I think for anyone listening, can take dozens of gems from this conversation. I think that someone with a track record like yours, it's kind of got some longevity, but also some points of trial and error of different ventures. Kind of like I've got, like I said before we hit record, I've had 30 ideas of businesses or ways to make money, and a few of them work. and hopefully, those of you listening, those of you watching, can take some things and go with them. And honestly, good luck to all of you.
Check me out on Facebook first, Jordan Hill, 3 A's, JORDAAANHILL. Look for me there. Also, I'll be on IG, TikTok as well. And then on YouTube, you'll see all the live streams. So let us know if we can help. Reach out. Don't hesitate. Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me.
You know where you can find us. At the table with the trailblazers, pathfinders. Why would you attack Midas? Backbiters don't want smoke with the fact finders. You ain't getting to the bag like us. We know we crazy with it. You can't